everyone! In today's video I'm going to be taking a first look at the Natasha Denona Bloom Palette. This arrived in the UK a little bit later than everybody was hoping, but I was very quick off the mark and ordered it from Sephora, who didn't disappoint and delivered the next day, and it was great. The question is, has Natasha Denona delivered as well, or has she disappointed me? Please watch on. Before we get into my first impressions, let me show you the swatches that I've already put on my hand. I can talk you through them. They're in sets of 5 as they are in the palette. Starting here we have Fluorescence, which is a metallic medium vivid tangerine, and next to it on the same row is Bark, which is a matte medium dark gingerbread brown. Then we've got Keen, which is a matte light medium nude tangerine. Then Ren, a matte medium coral pink. And then Fleur, a duochrome light pink with icy ivory shift. And then moving on to the row at the top, we have got Crisp, which is a sparkling foiled duochrome coral with gold. And then we've got Lush, a sparkling foiled light nude apricot. And then Brick, which is a matte medium bright terracotta. And then Rue, a metallic medium light burgundy, and then Floss, a matte medium vintage rose. Now the final row, you may not be able to see this, it's very light on my skin anyway, is Petal, which is a silky matte light salmon. Then next to it we've got a sparkling foiled medium brick, which is called Ember. Then we have Robin, which is a silk matte medium dusty coral. Then we've got Clover, which is a matte dark vivid burgundy. And then finally we have Equinox. Now I need to make sure that you can actually see this. I'm just going to move my hand a little bit because this is clearly the shade that Natasha Denona is particularly proud of. And it's called Equinox, and it's a sparkling foiled duochrome peach with a turquoise blue shift. I must be honest with you, I can't really see this turquoise blue shift. She does describe it as groundbreaking, and I'm just not seeing it. That's a sneak peek of my first impressions. Let me just show them to you again. You can see everything, see the whole colour story. It's very much a peachy colour story, a peachy apricot with some mauves in there and some terracottas. Lots of light colours, which I have to say is what I was hoping with this palette, because I don't like it when she goes too dark, just because for my colouring I just prefer as many lighter tones as possible, and I feel that this palette on an initial reading gives it to us. However, there are some shades that I struggle to swatch. I unboxed the palette and did a short on it to begin with, just to do the swatches, and I have to say the swatches took me several goes because I felt there was something wrong that I was doing. I had to have a cup of tea to calm down, and once I did that, I redid the swatches, and actually they don't really swatch that well. I mean, I now feel I'm quite experienced in swatching this palette, and they're not great. Now, we know that sometimes happens because it's just your eyelids are different, and they look more subtle colours on the eyes show up better than subtle colours on the arm. But from that point of view, it's slightly disappointing. However, I have done an initial look, and the colours that I've used, I will show you. I have used these colours here in particular: Fluorescent, this one's called Fleur, and this one called Lush. And I have to say, they are just really nice. They blend really nicely, everything that you would expect from Natasha Denona. The colour that I really struggled with was Equinox, which is this one here. Let me show you here. And I couldn't get it to show up. I really need to spend some time with this palette, which isn't something that I often think of, because mostly with a palette, I kind of know whether I'm really going to love it. There's very few palettes I feel that have grown on me, although I suppose I Need a Nude was probably one where it did grow on me, and I Need a Warm was the one where I thought I was going to love it, and I've ended up really hardly ever reaching for it. It's just that bit too warm, probably a bit too bland. I don't know, it just never took off for me. I do feel I need to spend more time and really get some looks on the eyeballs, really film them, have a look, show them to you. I should be able to do several different looks. The question is, are they going to look that different, and are they actually going to show up? From that point of view, I'm really interested. Now, there are some shades here that I think bear comparison with some other Natasha Denona palettes. I don't want to bore you by doing endless swatches of similar shades, just because if you've got that palette, you've got it, you'd be able to decide yourself anyway. I do think that there are some shades that Natasha Denona herself has highlighted here, and I do wonder whether they feel a bit rehashy to me. In the next segment, I'm going to show you some comparisons, cherry-picked comparisons. I'm not going to do whole palettes because, as I said, I can hold them up and you can have a look. But actually, I think it is worth comparing a few individual colours to see quite how different they are, and whether in fact this palette is for you, whether this colour story is actually going to do something different to perhaps anything else that you've got that it's worth the money. And it's worth the outlay. This isn't a limited edition palette, so we've all got plenty of time. You don't have to rush. You can take your time on this one. But let me show you some interesting, what I think are some interesting comparison swatches without driving you completely bananas. So speaking for myself, if I had just seen the Bloom palette on social media and anything that I'd read about it, there would be a handful of palettes already in my collection from Natasha Denona that I would wonder if there was some kind of similarity or some crossover. I'm not going to bore you by showing you every single Natasha Denona palette I've got, but these are the handful that I would kind of wonder if that was the case. So here we've got the Bieber palette, and below is Bloom, you know, completely different. Completely different. It's cooler and it's got a slightly it feels more classical, doesn't it? It doesn't feel as up to date, even though I have to say it is a palette that over the years I have really enjoyed. And then there's also the bronze palette. Very different. There are some sort of really wonderful sort of sparkly shades, but it's a very, very different colour story. And then we have got the two I Need a Nude and I Need a Warm palette. So this actually surprised me. I Need a Nude and I Need a Warm. I Need a Nude I really, really do enjoy. I think it's probably one of my favourite cool palettes. However, there are some shimmers that I think bear comparison to a couple of in the Bloom, where there's no kind of base colour and it's very much a sort of a topper shade. And here we have I Need a Warm. Again, very different. I agree that you might think, well, these sort of shades, the very shimmery shades here and here, but actually when they're swatched, they are completely different. So that's that's kind of the comparison. The shade that I have struggled with, and not so much struggled with, but look, I've put all the shimmers on my hand here. So there's 7 shades. At the top here we've got Fluorescence, then Fleur, then Crisp, and then below we've got Lush, Rue, Ember, and then the Equinox, which is the one that Natasha herself seems to be sort of the most proud of, and and actually calls it a groundbreaking, formula. I did think that these were the shades that bore the most interesting comparison with some of the other shades in these palettes, as I've shown you. Just because if they're the ones that you're most attracted to, because the mattes, we know they're lovely. There's no fallout, I should say, across the whole of this palette. Nothing falls out. They do seem a bit crumbly when I was kind of swatching, but it is an unnatural thing to be sticking your finger in a palette each time. When you use the brushes, it doesn't crumble. They are absolutely fine. But I did think that, as I said, I wanted to show you some similar shades in these palettes that you might that might be of interest and might actually help you take a decision. Because, as I said, it's not to say that all mattes are equal, but some mattes, chances are you're going to have something maybe broadly similar in your collection. Not across all of them, but for some of them. So it's the shimmers really which are the kind of standout. So let me do that. Let me just quickly show you some swatches before we get to my final thoughts. Here in the I Need a Warm palette, I have got the swatches. Now they're a bit tricky to see. We've got Equinox here, and next to it we have got Lush, and then below I've got Sheen and Mia from I Need a Nude. You can see they're very, very similar. Now I've also got them on my fingers. Here we've got Lush and Equinox, and here I have got Mia on this one, Mia and Sheen. You can see Lush is much more gold, but Equinox, Mia and Sheen are definite relatives, aren't they? Now, With Equinox, I really want to love it because, as I said, Natasha Denona's highlighted it, and I feel, well, it's got to be something special. I mean, one of the things she says is that she says there's a turquoise blue shift. There is. I'm not entirely sure it's that visible, but I want to give it a go. To that end, I have got my, what is it? It's my Rèphr 28, and I thought I'm going to put some Equinox on top of what I've got now. Now, as I said, I've done a simple look just because this is like the first video, and it's basically Fleur and is it called Hue? Yes, or Rue. No, it's not. It's called Rue. But I thought I'll put some Equinox on top, and then that way we can see what it looks like as a topper. Dotted it on, and now let's have a look, because that may also give you more of an idea, and may give me more of an idea of what this Equinox does. Because she does call it a peach-toned duochrome. I mean, yeah, I'm looking on the monitor now. I can see a difference. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. I'd really like to know what you think, whether you think that's worth doing. It's adding another layer. And presumably, if you put the Equinox on top of something like this kind of very sort of apricot-y tone, that may well be lovely. That'll be one of the looks that I'll try, because actually what I think this is going to be really good for is slightly more subtle looks, because the thing with Natasha Denona, we know we can get the drama because the pigmentation's fantastic and they're such reliable quality, and the depth is just fantastic. They're impeccable formulas. But I do think with this we'll be able to get a more subtle look than the one I've done now. Very office friendly, very day-to-day friendly. In the next video I will definitely incorporate at least 2 looks which are just much more subtle, and actually maybe that's the way to use Equinox, just a little bit more sparingly over just one of the matte shades, and just do it in a slightly more quiet way. The other palette, last palette that I wanted to show you, is the bronze palette. There is a particularly lovely shade that I have always loved, and it's called Bliss, and it looks like this. And this has got a real peachy, greeny, bluey shift to it. It's a beautiful duochrome. I'm going to put a bit more on because I'm not sure that the camera is catching it the way. Yeah, there we go. There, can you see? You can see that apricot-y shift through the pink. When I heard about Equinox, I actually thought it was going to be a bit like that, and it's not anything like that at all. And I'm not showing you this colour as a comparison at all. I'm just saying that Equinox doesn't do this. Equinox is much more, I'll put it right next to it for you, is much more sheer. There we go. Yeah, it's much sheerer. But as I said, maybe that's it. That's probably the learning point. As I'm talking to you, I've learned that actually maybe that's the thing to do, just to use it as a topper, as if it was a Charlotte Tilbury or anything else, and then get the benefit from that point of view. And as I said, I quite like this actually, but it just feels slightly heavy. I'll try a lighter look and let's see how that goes. So those are my initial thoughts. I'm excited. I like the fact that Natasha Denona has given us and me, I know it's not personal, lots and lots of light shades to play with. One of the reasons why I never picked up the I Need a Dream palette, for example, is it was just that bit too dark, and I just want to be able to wear much lighter colours. I think as I get older, that seems to be something that I'm gravitating towards. To that end, I think it's a successful tempting palette for me, and I think if I was in store, I mean, as I ordered this from Sephora, but if I was in store and I was looking at it, I would want to buy it. I would want to have this in my collection and try it, because the colours they do immediately look lighter, and that's very attractive to me. I've done one look, there was no fallout, they blended brilliantly, I wasn't struggling, and they're honestly, from all the colours that I've used, and I've probably used 6 or 7 of them, there wasn't a dud. And actually, even when I was swatching, as I said, they didn't swatch as well as I expected, and they certainly didn't swatch as well as Natasha Denona's own video when she's doing it on her arm. And she's just, I mean, I know she's quite generous, isn't she, with the swiping, and I tried to be a bit more generous at times and still didn't get that. And actually, I'm not sure that's even helpful anyway, because when we apply eyeshadow, we want to go in lightly and then build up, so you kind of want to see what it's like when it's applied lightly. However, It's still a very attractive palette to me. I'm pleased I've got it, and I'm excited to try some more looks, because I think there will be at least 2 other looks I'll be able to do. My slight caveat is, are all the looks going to end up similar? But we'll see. I think there's probably only one colour that I probably wouldn't wear that much, and that's Clover, just because it's more of a sort of an aubergine burgundy shade, and sometimes, though I will try it, those colours can make me look a little bit, what do they make me look? They don't make me look tired, they just make me look a little bit sad. I don't know what that means, but they do make me look a bit low, which I don't really like. But I'll give it a go, because you never know. Maybe Clover is something that would benefit from having Equinox on top. We'll see. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video with all the different looks. Bye.